It's basically going to be me talking about what we spoke about last time, which was 2 weeks ago, and some improvements to it. So when I shared the slides earlier, there were certain aspects of the slides that I put on padlock, which means that we won't be talking about it until we get into the next class. And so here we are today. Those padlocks have been removed. So let me just share my screen without further ado. So at some point, I would like us to watch some videos as well. So just 2 videos, and then at different intervals. Also within the slides, I have put markers where we can, talk about certain stuff and give feedback as well. And if you have any questions, please feel free. Hi, Moyo. Hi, Choma. If you have any question, please feel free to drop your question in the chat. And then once it's time to answer questions, then we'll do that. I'll try as much as possible to be very, very precise and on time, because we have a lot to talk about. Last week, how many slides did we have? I think we had about 30 slides, I think. I can't remember, but I mean, today it's about, today's about 50, but I mean, I'll make sure that we'll go through them quickly. So put your ears on the ground and, get ready to learn and learn very fast. So yeah, let me share my screen now. Google Chrome. Okay, optimize. Absolutely. All right, please let me know if you can see my screen. Hello, can anybody see my screen? Can anybody hear me?
I can see your screen.
Hello, Favor, can you see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay.
But it's a little bit blurry on my end. I don't know if it is the same for everyone.
Please drop your feedback. Is it blurry?
Okay.
Okay. I think it's from your end, Favor.
Okay, good.
All right. Oh, it's blurry. Okay, I know what happened. Sorry, let me reshare again. I clicked optimize for video, so that's why. I think it should be okay now. Can you see my screen now? Hello, can anyone see my screen?
Did you share? So I think you shared and share. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay, clear now, right? It's clear now, right?
Yes.
All right, so let's go into it straight. Can you see it now? It's full screen, absolutely, good. All right, so yes, last week, this week, I mean, it's still the same topic, adopting project management concepts in product development. I'm well aware that not everyone on this call is a product manager, but I mean, it's great to know some of all these things. It doesn't matter, what you're doing, but I'm guessing most of the people on this call are product managers as well. So yes, basically, we are talking about understanding basic concepts and, applying them in product development. Doesn't matter who you are, because we don't just have only a product manager or product managers in any product development setting that we have. There are other people who are involved as well. Scrum Master, developers, QA people, designers, and all of that. So yeah, let's just go straight into it. Last week, okay, I shared the content that we had. We were supposed to talk about Scrum, Kanban, and Scaled Agile, which are the 3 most popular Agile frameworks. And we're only able to talk about Kanban last week. And so I postponed Scrum and Scaled Agile to this week. At the end of the day, we'll also go through one of the tools that we use for, product management, project management, actually, for software development projects and even projects that don't even have to do with software, right? So, yeah, moving on. Yeah, my name is Wale Ajiboye. For those of us who are just joining, and I have a community I'm building currently with some other people, just to help people who are trying to get into, product management, Scrum, being a Scrum Master, understanding how to develop products collaboratively with other people. So I have an engineering background. I did civil engineering, but I don't do that anymore. I have a couple of Agile certifications, and I've worked with amazing people in the fintech space for some time now. I like to swim. I like playing table tennis. I like to travel. Thank you. All right, moving on. The key learning objectives still remain the same. Being able to outline the key project management methodologies and their frameworks, to be able to identify project management tools and processes that are useful for product managers, and then to be able to list the tools and their differences, be able to differentiate them, right? So let's move on. So I'm going to skip all of this. We did project management versus product management last week, and we explained it. People gave feedback. As you can see, I tried to explain the difference between product management and project management. I mean, after this class, the slides will be available for everyone. And, you can go through it again. Also, you can reach out if you do have any concerns or questions. So yeah, we did all of that. We identified Lean and Agile principle. This is just a recap of what we did last week. We talked about Lean. We talked about Waterfall, Agile. We talked about, okay, we didn't talk about the Scrum framework, which is what we're going to get into right now. Okay, so yeah, are we ready? Are we ready? Would you prefer us watching the video first before we start, or would you prefer we start with the slide and then watch the video afterwards? I need feedback in the comment section. Drop it. So we can move really quickly today. Can anybody hear me? Slide first, video first. I should have done a poll. Okay, I can see lots of videos, so it's good to watch videos first. This is like a 5-minute video that summarizes everything that I'm probably going to be talking about today. So I think we should watch the video first. Nice one, guys. Okay. So let me just go straight to the video and we can watch. Sorry, I have many tabs. It's just how it is. All right. I'm not alone in this. Okay. I think this is full screen. I'm sure you'll be able to hear. Let me know if you can hear.
Suppose you'd like to start a new project. Usually you'd...
Were you able to hear? Nice. Perfect. All right. So please pay attention. Cheers, guys.
Suppose you'd like to start a new project. Usually you'd draw up a plan, make a schedule, find a project manager, hold endless meetings, and ultimately, just hope you don't stumble before you reach the finish line. But what does that usually deliver? Everything's more expensive than expected. You stress about your deadline. The end result could have been better, and energy has drained from your team. These problems are solved with Scrum. With Scrum, you write fewer plans and you do more. In short cycles, we call sprints. You don't work on separate islands, but as one dedicated team. Instead of working on a project with a distant deadline, You constantly deliver functioning products. You don't use final evaluations, but you receive continuous feedback. Scrum is a flexible way of working in a rapidly changing world. It's frequently used in IT projects, so many of the websites you visit or apps you use were made using Scrum. This way of working is used more and more. Scrum was recently used to build a large new bridge, but it can also be used to develop new products, compile budgets and annual reports, organize events in your town, or even to set up a completely new company. How does Scrum work? Let's use the marketing campaign for a new car as an example. In the first week, you take action right away. You share a glimpse of your design through social media. The feedback you receive will be used in week 2. You attract media attention, which leads to new feedback for making improvements. We call these weeks sprints, which are actually mini projects that each produce their own specific results. Instead of knowing exactly where you want to end up, you take a step-by-step approach as you work towards your final ambition, like the successful launch of a new car. A Scrum team has stand-up meetings, works transparently, feels a joint responsibility, is aware of the progress made every day, and has results to celebrate after each sprint. Scrum has 3 roles. First, the product owner, the key stakeholder with a vision who provides direction to the team for each sprint. Then there are team members, 5 to 9 professionals in various disciplines who are jointly responsible for the results. The Scrum Master, a facilitator who focuses completely on the process. Then there are Scrum lists, the product backlog in which you list your ambitions and express how you intend to achieve them. The sprint backlog, the shopping list of products you want to produce in the next sprint. The definition of done indicates precisely what needs to be done by the end of the sprint. And the Scrum board. This shows all of the team members' tasks, which will change from to do to busy to done during a sprint. Then there are 4 meetings. First, the sprint planning meeting. What exactly are we going to achieve during this sprint, and who's doing what? Next, the stand-up. Is everything going according to plan, and are we going to make it? The third meeting is the review, during which you deliver your results and receive feedback. The last meeting is the retrospective. You look back on the process and reflect on what you can improve as a team for the next sprint. Scrum is a powerful way of working that provides speed and energy. Maybe something for your organization too?
All right. All right, thanks everyone. That was a very brief video, 4 minutes, 30 seconds. Just a slight intro into what we are going to be talking about. So let's continue from where we stopped. So the Scrum framework. What is Scrum? Scrum is a lightweight framework that helps people, teams, and organizations to deliver value through adaptive solutions for complex problems. So basically, it's a way that people work that helps them to deliver value and helps them to break down complex problems into very, very simple ones in a way that, breaking things down in a way that you can easily solve those problems. So it's like breaking down work into granular forms in a way that you can you can get value out of them, being able to test, being able to inspect, being able to refine and get feedback, see what can be improved on. And I'd like to use the video that I shared earlier to explain what I'm saying. as you could see that there was a car that was initially brought out, and then a couple of people started testing it, and then they started collecting feedback from people who were using it, and they were adding those feedback to modify how that product looked like. That is basically what Scrum is all about, continuously improving something you're working on over a period of time. And as you could see, they talked about using Scrum to build a bridge. You can use Scrum in other aspects aside software development, but in this context here today, we're going to be talking about it in the context of software development. Okay, so Scrum is a framework that helps teams to work together, and it got its name from rugby, right? Rugby is, I don't know who watches rugby, not many people, but you see them gathering together, trying to get a ball and try to run and pass a finish line. So the whole point is getting everybody's effort collaboratively to focus on one thing. And then in this Scrum squad in rugby, they have different roles that they play as well. So that's why it's kind of similar, right? So, and Scrum encourages teams to learn through experiences, through like past performances, past data, previous data. And then they also self-organize while working on the problem. They're also able to reflect on their wins and their losses to continuously improve. So the keyword here is continuous improvement. I don't want to speak too technical about this. I want it to be very simple and easy to understand. It's just a framework that has been created to help teams to work collaboratively and more effectively than they've always been doing. All right. So who is a Scrum Master? I'm sure you've already heard about Scrum Master, Scrum Framework, Scrum Master. Who is a Scrum Master? So the Scrum Master is at the center of anything that has to do with Scrum in that team. The Scrum Master, like they said in the video, is focused on the process of working within the team, anything that has to do with the process. Then the product owner works on the product, is focused more on the product and everything that has to do with the product. So those are like the two key differences, product, process, between the product owner and the Scrum Master. So the Scrum Master is responsible for fostering communication within the team, meeting facilitation. I'll talk about the meetings also as we go on, because there are many meetings there were some meetings rather that were mentioned in that video. So the duty of the Scrum Master is to facilitate meetings, to coach the team on a one-on-one level, and also at the organizational level, to support teams, to help remove blockers when engineering people are working or like anybody in the team basically has issues. The role of the Scrum Master is to help remove those blockers. Then reporting is part of it as well. There are certain metrics that use to track the progress of teams. We also use some tools, like I mentioned Jira last week, which we are going to take a sneak peek into. And I'll just be summarizing, how to use Jira, the key things that you need to know about Jira, and nothing too deep, to be honest. Most of these concepts are very, very simple concepts that you can easily understand. Then the role of the Scrum Master is to protect the team, right? To prevent the product manager from, because they want the product out fast. There are a couple of people that like to do certain anti-patterns, things that are not right within the team, forcing the team to pick certain things, to overcommit and all of that. So the Scrum Master is there as like that intermediary between, sometimes between stakeholders and the development teams. And the product owner is also part of the stakeholders here, because most of the time they also communicate directly with the stakeholders. In fact, sometimes they every single thing that's defined that, is a product that should be delivered is always from the stakeholders. And then other improvements will now come up where you now have to start getting feedback from people to improve on your product. But the original idea, the original vision, most of the times usually comes from the stakeholders. So basically, that's who the Scrum Master is. I'm still going to talk more about, the Scrum Master in this series. All right, so Scrum has values, just like every company that you see out there. They'll tell you what are your core values. They'll tell you 3 C's. Some people will tell you, like it depends on the company, but everybody has core values. Same thing with Scrum. And in Scrum, the core values are focus, openness, respect, commitment, and courage. For anything to work in Scrum, for Scrum to be Scrum, and for it to successfully be able to add value to your team, these are the values that you must uphold. The team must be able to focus. The team must be able to be open and to be able to speak up at any point in time if there are any issues or any concerns. Then there must be respect in the team, and there must be commitment, and there must be courage. You must be able to work without fear. Maybe in terms of like whenever you have something to work on and it feels like it might be really difficult, being able to show courage that, oh, this is different, I'm able to make this happen. That's one of the core values as well. So yeah, we also have pillars of Scrum. Now, everything I'm mentioning here is very, very critical to what Scrum is. And I would like it if you pay attention. And like I said, for you to understand anything, anything at all, you must go deep down into the whole point of it. What's the whole point of this thing? Like that's what will help you to get any other concept that I'll be bringing up later on. And so these 2 things I mentioned are at the core of what the whole point of it is, right? So in this diagram, you can see certain things here. You can see the values here: commitment, courage, focus, openness, respect. And then you can see the pillars. I don't know why they put pillars as values, why values are pillars here, but it's okay. The pillars are transparency, inspection, and adaptation. Anything you see in Scrum that doesn't follow these 3 principles is just on the side of it. It's just an add-on. But at the core of everything we are doing, everything I'm talking about in Scrum, it revolves around transparency, inspection, and adaptation. And what does it mean, right? Let's go on to the next slide. So for transparency, Scrum promotes transparency because it requires certain aspects of the process to be visible. Everybody must be able to see what we are talking about. And that's why I told us last week that we borrowed Kanban board from Kanban framework, and we now adapted it into Scrum. Why? Because we wanted to improve transparency, visibility. So transparency is very, very important. Anything that the team is working on at every single point in time, everybody must be able to visually see it. In certain teams in organizations, they have like a board, like a whiteboard, where they put stickers on it. Some teams use Jira, just like I said, and then they use it to sort of visualize what the team is working on. So yeah, it depends on which team or what company or whatever, but the main point is that there must be a single source of truth, and everybody must be able to visually see what is going on at any single point in time. All right. So yeah, just like we said here, the aspects are defined by a common standard, so observers can share a common understanding of what is being seen. It has to be very clear and understandable. The next one is inspection. Scrum artifacts, which I'll still mention, going on, must be frequently inspected. So when you talk about inspection, you should be able to check and see, okay, is this thing correct? Is this thing working? Do you understand? You should be able to test. Another word for inspection is also testing. So you can use those words interchangeably. In the Scrum framework, anything you are working on you must be able to test it and verify whether it is correct or not. That speaks to being able to know the truth at every single point in time. But you must be able to test whatever it is you're working on. And that's what inspection talks about. So the frequency of inspection should not be such that the inspection should get in the way of the work. So because you are testing, it doesn't mean that testing should now be what will waste your time or take you away from what you're trying to do. Inspections are only most beneficial when we have skilled people doing it, so that you don't take time, right? All right. The next one is adaptation. For you to continuously improve, like in that video, you see that the way that car was changing as people were getting feedback, the car was changing and taking form to what the customers really wanted. That's the whole point of adaptation, being able to get feedback from customers or from stakeholders and put that feedback into that same product to improve it, right? So those are the three key things: transparency, inspection, and adaptation. They're at the core of Scrum. Then we have the core values: commitment, courage, focus, openness, respect. I'm just saying it just for us to go over it again. Yes, just like reinforcement learning. All right, so moving on, adaptation. Now we have the Scrum team. Who are the people in the Scrum team? We have the Scrum Master, the product owner, the developers, aka the development team. By developers, I don't mean people that write code. There are also people in the team who do not write code, right? There are people who test what is being done, QA. There are people who design, there are people who write certain content. It depends on what the formulation of your team is. What whoever is going to be working on that product, is a developer, basically. Not software developer, but it's part of the development team, all right, of that product. Moving on to the next slide, the Scrum team. So the Scrum Master helps to facilitate Scrum to the larger team by ensuring that the Scrum framework is followed. The Scrum Master is committed to the core values that I mentioned, the practices, and the Scrum Master should be flexible enough and be open to opportunities that will help the team to improve. So the Scrum Master should be getting feedback from the team constantly. The team getting feedback from themselves constantly. That's how to build high-performing teams. Okay, so in this diagram, you can see we have the Scrum team here. We have the product owner, we have the Scrum Master. So in this big oval here, that's the development, that's the Scrum team. Now, like I said earlier, there are certain people who are certain stakeholders in whatever product you're building, and they are outside the Scrum team, but they have influence on the team because certain aspects of the product that you're building is dependent on them. So your stakeholders, maybe in a bank setting, could be people who are like in IT security, for example, people who are like service owners and the likes. Then we also have people who are like the business owners, who are like focused on the business side of things. Yes, I know people have spoken about the product owner being able to find about the product owner being able to be versatile in terms of knowing the business side of things, technology side of things, and and whatnot and all of that. But the truth is that in the real sense of it, in certain contexts, you have the product owner reporting to business owners. The business owner will create business requirement documents, and then the product owner comes and creates their own product requirement document from the business requirement document. So either way, is working in that kind of overall sphere, whatever way you want to call it. You have stakeholders who are not directly within your team, right? That you will be working with. But for a standard team, we have a Scrum Master, the product owner, and we have the Scrum team. Okay, so let's move on. So can we take this? Oh, yes. Let's take this. What went wrong here? Maybe I didn't log in. Okay, can anyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, you can hear me. All right. I think I forgot to log into the slide. How do I escape this? One sec. Okay, it took me out. No wonder. All right, I think we should just do that in the chat then. Mention 3 pillars of Scrum. So just drop it in the chat. For some reason, I'm not able to create that collaborative page where everyone can write and chat in. All right, so yes, mention 3 pillars of Scrum. Kindly drop them in the chat section. Let me see. Transparency, inspection, adaptation. Transparency, inspection, adaptation. Transparency, inspection, adaptation. Awesome, awesome, awesome. That is the core of Scrum. If you know this, you know Scrum. Anything you do, because Scrum does not coerce you or force you to abide by certain things, right? Like, how do I put it now? Scrum does not dictate how you should go. And that's why we have a Scrum guide. It's just a guide. Just like I said last week, it's a guide, something that says, okay, if you do things like this, this is going to be the expected outcome. However, it's possible. Thank you very much. Empiricism is the word. Thanks, DG. All right, so the whole point is to be able to learn from what you've done previously, able to apply what from the results of what you've done previously, applying that feedback into improving what you're doing currently. So it's like yesterday, you put your hand in fire as a child, and then it burns your hand. The next day, if you see fire, you won't put your hand into it. So I think that's what basically explains this in the most clear terms. Transparency, inspection, adaptation. So let's move on. So who is a Scrum Master? Like I said earlier, the Scrum Master helps to facilitate certain ceremonies, which I'll mention. They make sure that the Scrum framework is followed. However, like I said, you can use the Scrum guide to adapt it to certain aspects of your own work. You know, like it's not like it's directly saying do this. You know, you can adapt it to suit your unique situations, your unique situation rather. Sorry. Okay, so yeah, we already know who the Scrum Master is. The Scrum Master is the custodian of the Scrum framework, the process which the team works with, right? Yeah. Who is the product owner? Many people have mentioned different things about product owners to me. Some have said that it's not product owner, like product manager. Some people say they use these words interchangeably. But I think what the focus should be is actually on the role itself. what does the person do in the Scrum team? So this basically brings it to a very simple and well-defined, how do I call it now? Very granular terms, right? The product owner is a single person who is responsible for the product backlog. And what's a product backlog? The product backlog is a list of the features that are prioritized with short descriptions of the functionality required. So as a product owner or an aspiring product owner, I'm sure you would have heard about user stories, writing user stories, creating epics, creating features. And these are items that you will need when you're breaking down this in quote product requirement document, right, into granular terms, which we call user stories. So a user story, just to iterate it or to say it again, I'm sure a lot of people already know, a user story is a single unit of or a single unit of value that you can add to some improvements that you want to do or some features that you want to create. You can break them down into a very tiny, granular, very explainable units that anybody can understand. So, for example, I'm trying to think of something that I would like to create and I can use. Okay, so for example, people are writing a book. Someone's writing a book, right? And then in the book, you have chapters. In the chapters, you have maybe like a story. Do you understand? Or maybe like a paragraph. I think paragraph is the most simple, the most granular form of anything book or writing, right? So you can have a paragraph. So you have a paragraph, and in this context, we are saying a paragraph is a user story. In the paragraph, you can have an epic. An epic for the context of this, an epic could be your chapter. And then you can have a feature which you could liken to, your book. And then you can have many books as a writer, which is also, a little much more advanced than that in terms of collectively explaining, breaking stuff down. So basically, that's what a user story is, the tiniest form of value that you can add. I'm trying to run away from using the already defined words because I want to make it really easy to understand. Yeah, so what's the question here? Can we get a clearer description of what a user story means, especially in the context of a newbie to PM lingo? How do you mean newbie? I mean, newbie is someone who is new, right? But I'm saying this in the context of like anybody, literally. The smallest value you can add to something that is meaningful and people can use it and they can derive value from it, basically. So, for example, you want to change someone, you want to be able to change a profile in a product. You want to be able to upload documents. You basically clearly explain it. As a user, I want to do this and I want to do that. You mention the value that you're going to add, be able to get from it, and then the outcome, right? So that you can be able to do. It's something very basic. I'll still come back to it. Don't worry. When we are done with this, I don't want us to take too much time, but I feel it's something that we should talk about towards the end of this. So yeah, that's who the product owner is. The product owner is the person who ensures that the product backlog, which is a collection of all these stories, they ensure that the product backlogs are clearly stated and transparent to the team. Yeah, let's move on. So what's the development team? I already said that earlier. The people who are responsible for working on a product that is to be delivered on any level. So they are very, very much active and actively involved in making sure that that product is meeting the required definition in terms of what is said in the user story, right? All right, so the next thing we're talking about are the Scrum artifacts. So, yeah, basically from what we can see here, they said we have 3 Scrum artifacts. It's more than that, but this is literally it, right? It's basically explaining it from start to finish, that process, what will happen, what are the key markers, that would say, okay, your product needs to go through this particular, process. How do I put this? All right, so let's look at it like this. I don't know why it's very, very, it's very, very hard to break stuff down. So another thing is this: I feel like we should open our minds to new concepts, right? There are certain things that might not be very easy to break down granularly. There are some people that have that skill to break stuff down, but let's just be open-minded, right? So think about it. At the beginning of a project, or you want to build a product, you get the requirements, right? The features, maybe there are bug fixes. Okay, bug fixes come after you've started, but like potential things that you need to change to make sure that you are building something. So let's start with features, right? You get features, you break those features down into user stories, and your product backlog is a collection of those user stories. So that product backlog is a collection of user stories, like I said, and there are certain things that will happen to that backlog before it can be picked and moved to the next stage, which is the sprint backlog. So that product backlog needs to be prioritized in order of value and importance, really, and that is really defined by the product manager or the product owner, because they understand. They are the ones that their ears are on ground to listen to feedback. They're the ones that know what is happening and which one is more important. So all those user stories have their order of importance. So basically, those stories need to be prioritized. Now, when those stories are prioritized, they need to be worked on. So that will move to the next stage. And then that's where the sprint backlog comes in. And the sprint backlog basically is where items that people have selected to work on next will be put, and for the sprint, which I'll talk about next. Yeah, that's really what the sprint backlog is. The development team will pick items from the product backlog here and put them into the sprint backlog, where they will start working on those items. So when they finish working on it, definitely you can now call it an improvement. So like I said, it's a potential change, right? So yeah, you have a product increment, which is an improvement to what you've had before, and then you can now ship it. And now when you ship it and you have issues, that's where these fixes come into play, right? And then for technical work, it could include, maybe documenting what you want to work on, or maybe investigating certain items that are not working in your product. So that's where these 3 come into play. And so that's what I call them potential software changes, right? So this is something that will be going on repeatedly. So, but these are the artifacts: the backlog, sprint backlog, and increment. The goal is to deliver value, right? So let's move on. So what's a sprint? I mentioned a sprint now. A sprint is a small time box where everyone will decide to work on certain items. They will commit to working on certain items. And then after that time box ends, then we'll now get to see what has been done, review it, see if it's well done, and if there's anything that needs to be, improved on in terms of what we have there. So a sprint is a short time box or just a small period of time, which could be 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks in some certain teams. But I mean, it's not supposed to be too long. Like I said, the goal is to be able to inspect, quickly test, and also adapt what you've been able to deliver into a new version of your product, basically. So the sprint is just that small time where you say, okay, let me pick up these items and then work on them. And then after that period ends, you go on another sprint again. So the reason why the time has to be small or reduced, not for like an elongated period of time, is because if you develop stuff for an elongated period of time, testing it would also take an elongated period of time. In my own, how do I put it now? With the way I see it, right? It will also delay the time that people will get value from you. And so the less the time you spend in developing a small amount of what you are doing, the more value you're able to get in terms of time to market, in terms of feedback from customers. So you don't have to wait until 2 months before you realize a certain button in your app is not working. Do you understand? So that's the whole point of sprints. Small time box, like I said, is short time box period where the Scrum team works to complete certain amount of work. So yeah, that's really it. In the sprint, that's where all the items that have been selected from the product backlog is put into. So from the product backlog, it's moved into the sprint backlog and then is worked on. Most sprints, on the average, is 2 weeks. If you check with most teams, their sprint time is 2 weeks, which is not a bad thing. You can release a version of whatever you are building every 2 weeks. It's not bad. So it's just, very simple stuff to understand. So I just want to quickly mention who are the people that we think can be in a development team. Who are the people that we think can be in a development team? Just type it in the chat. Just mention them. You can just mention one, and then someone else mentions another person. That's who are the development team members. Quality assurance, UI developers, QA engineers. Amazing. Very simple to understand, right? There's no big, I'm trying not to sound very textbooky because that's the reason why many people are not really getting what people are talking about. I want it to sound very rudimentary, and I'm even finding it really hard to do that. So like I said, let's open our minds to new concepts, right? Okay, so what are the Scrum ceremonies? Obviously, Scrum is a framework, which means that there are certain things that, that people will be expected to do. So we have 5 Scrum ceremonies, and yeah, these are the ceremonies here, right? Sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint review, sprint retrospective, and then backlog refinement. So I have broken them down already, but I want to talk about it holistically here, right? We have 5 of them. The first one is sprint planning, but I would like us to start from the last one, and then we'll go to the first one, second one, third one, and fourth one. So backlog refinement takes place continuously, right? And what is backlog refinement? It is basically the product backlog being prioritized in the order of importance. And like I said, the backlog is filled with user stories, which I also said is the most basic form or the most basic or granular bit of value that you can add to your product. Very, very simple. The smallest value you can add to your product, right? So it comes in a list, right? Which I call backlog, right? And so for you to make that, hi Esther. So for you to make that backlog refined, you have to have a refinement session. And in that session, everyone comes and talk about what is important, what they understand, what the product, what the user stories is. Sorry, I said what user stories is. What the user story is, and check if they understand it, validate it, and push it to the top of the backlog in the order of importance. So everyone is taking part in this. And the part that has to do with prioritization is focused mainly on by the product owner. But the part that has to do with understanding what that story is in this refinement session is it has to do with the development team. So they will be able to say, okay, yes, this is a story, I understand it, and I can pick it, I can work on it, right? So they can also go on to estimate the amount of effort it would take. So basically, that is what backlog refinement is. That point where, that ceremony where you come together to work, to agree on the user stories and to prioritize them. Very simple. And then the next one is the sprint planning, which is where everybody comes together to pick what they will work on in that sprint. That's the primary purpose of the sprint planning meeting. And then some people choose to do estimation in that session too, instead of doing estimation during refinement. It's totally up to the team and the way they would like to do it. But those things need to be done. You need to prioritize and you need to plan for the sprint. You can't just start a sprint without not planning, right? And so it's done at the beginning of the sprint, just like I implied earlier. You need to plan before you start the sprint. And so the next one is the daily Scrum meeting, which takes place every day during the sprint. So there are teams that probably work on Saturdays and Sundays. If they do work on Saturdays and Sundays, then it means that they have to do their stand-up on those days. But it happens every day, once every day, in the morning or in the afternoon or in the night, depending on when the team chooses to do it. Like I said, it also aligns with the core principle, the core pillar of Scrum, which is inspection. So we do a daily Scrum meeting to avoid us having to wait till the end of the sprint before we detect issues. And there are certain things we do in that meeting, which I'll still talk about as we move on. But it's basically a very simple meeting where everyone comes to talk about what they've done previously, what they're going to be doing in that day that we currently are in, and then if they have any issues that need to be resolved. So like I said, it's for you to quickly inspect. Transparency, inspection, adaptation. This one speaks to inspection. So you don't have to wait till the end before you are able to detect problems. The next one is sprint review. And that speaks to coming to demo what has been done, literally, to come and show what has been done within that sprint. So it takes place at the end of the sprint. All you need to do as a product owner, you come and show that which the team has done to the stakeholders or to parties who are relevant to that product, right? So it's just a review, it's a demo. And then the last one here is sprint retrospective. It also takes place at the end of this sprint. And the purpose of the sprint retrospective is to be able to check what has been done within the sprint in terms of processes, ways of working, lessons learned within that sprint. So it's basically you improving on the sprint, not the product. The ways that you can help make that sprint better. If there were issues, what are the issues that are stopping that process from being very seamless? Those are the things that we need to really focus on when it comes to retrospective. It's just like after you ended the day from work, you came back home, and then you start thinking about how your day went. Literally, I think that's the simplest way to explain that. But in this context, the sprint is, in quotes, your day. So you just reflect on that sprint. How did it go? What did we do wrong? What did we do right? What are the ways we can improve on the sprint, right? And then after that, we take some improvement items. Okay, thanks, Esther. I can see that. So we take some improvement items and then put it back into the backlog, refine the backlog, prioritize, that's number 5, and go to number 1 again, plan, like that. So it's a continuous process, it's a cycle. All right, so let's move on. I've talked about the daily stand-up. Once a day, 15 minutes max. 15 minutes max. Shouldn't be more than that. Most people like to stand up, but I mean, that's their cup of tea, to be honest. You can be on your bed and have stand up, but I mean, they call it stand up. So like I said, what you completed yesterday, what you'll be working on today, and if you're being blocked by anything. So all the team members are supposed to answer these questions. The next one is sprint planning. Everybody should be there. It happens every sprint, like I said, and it's basically for us to come and work on the prioritized backlog already from the refinement and plan what we will take into that sprint. Simple stuff. The review, like I said, is carried out at the end of the sprint, showing the goals that have been achieved, what has been worked on, literally, and then giving the stakeholders feedback, an opportunity for them to also get feedback from the stakeholders as well. So that's basically the review. Retrospective, like I said, end of the sprint to where we get to learn from what, has how the sprint went. Refinement as well, to clarify user stories with the team members, the development team. So people prioritize at this point, people estimate as well, but I mean, it's up to the team, but those items need to be done. So this is the Scrum process in a nutshell. I'm done with the Scrum process now, but let's just talk about this in a very holistic view. Very, very simple stuff, right? It all starts with a vision. Please follow me very, very carefully, right? It starts with a vision. From that vision, user stories are developed, which is like small, valuable items that can help that vision to come into play, right? And so from that user stories, we have a product backlog, which is a collection of user stories, right? From the product backlog, we refine the backlog, right? Then we do sprint planning. We plan in that sprint. We have that sprint, right? And then, of course, what is in the sprint is selected product backlog items, which we'll put it into the sprint backlog, basically. So in the sprint planning, we select items from the product backlog and put it into the sprint backlog. And the sprint backlog is literally your sprint proper, literally. And so you start the sprint, like I said, some people do 2 weeks, some people do 4 weeks. It depends on your team, right? And so the sprint goes on, you work on those stories for 2 to 4 weeks, depending on your team. And then every single day within that 2 to 4 weeks period, you must have your daily scrum. And that's why this arrow comes out of this circle, because every day you iterate, every day you get feedback from the team where they are. Every day you are constantly inspecting. And then after the sprint ends, you have new functionality, usable software, or working software, anything that you've been able to add, any new value you've been able to add, which is an improvement of what you had before. That's how you get your new functionality. And then you review that functionality at your sprint review meeting. You show your stakeholders, people who are important to what product you're building, get feedback from them, conduct your retrospective, like I said, where you improve on your own processes in-house. And then you go back again into sprint planning and repeat the same cycle. So, but you won't be going through this whole vision part, because this vision part is just once. Although sometimes they might come to you with more requirements, from the people who have the vision. But that's where that product backlog comes into play. New stories can be added, new stories can be removed or added. But like I said, it's all in terms of priority. So we select more again, take it into the sprint backlog, have the sprint, inspect every day. That's a daily stand-up, build new functionality, come down again, show what you've done, retrospect, go back again, plan the sprint, exactly like that. That's how it goes on and on. That's what Scrum is about, being able to deliver value quickly, iteratively, and also with value. Iteratively, because you are improving on what you currently have before. With value, because you're obviously delivering something that people can use in the market. And then also making sure that what you're building, you have quality stuff. You're not, dropping down the quality because you want to make it in time. So, things need to be done properly. So that's the Scrum process in a nutshell. And I think the video I shared earlier explained it. This would be a good time to watch the video again, but maybe after some other time. Okay, so moving on. Yeah. How many Scrum ceremonies do we have? Just drop it in the chat. The number. Can everybody hear me? Okay, someone said 4, someone said 5. 5. 5. Okay. So it's a very tricky question, right? And to be honest, it's only when you've read the Scrum guide that you'll be able to know. So, I mean, so there are 5, like I mentioned in this slide, but the core ones that I mentioned, there are just 4. Is the sprint backlog is the one that I didn't add, that people don't really usually count, but it's 5, to be honest, because if you don't refine your story, you won't be able to plan your sprints, and refinement is continuous. So, I mean, depends on how you see it. All right, so moving on. Last week, I spoke about the Kanban framework, which is also one of the project management frameworks that we use. I'm done talking about Scrum. Any question we have about Scrum, we'll still take that at the end. But for now, I'm done. Kanban framework, right? Yeah, we went into it last week, so we're not going again. Yeah, Scaled Agile framework. And so the beauty of Scrum is the fact that it's you can use it to work on, very small teams, right? Just maybe a startup, for example, you have a team, you want to build some cool, interesting product for people to use. Very, very interesting, right? Yes. But then think about it now, when you begin to have multiple Scrum teams, maybe you have an organization like maybe Dell or Google, or any organization that you definitely know they have at least more than 20 teams, software development teams now. Now, how do you manage Scrum in that context? That's where the Scaled Agile framework comes into play. So I call it Scaled Scrum framework. It's basically a framework that adapts itself in such a way that it helps you to scale Scrum when you have many teams. It's still kind of like Scrum. It's still Scrum actually, but it's a framework that has been adapted to help scale Scrum teams if you have more than one. So the goal is to be able to deliver value through multiple value streams, multiple teams, improving processes, just like we had in Scrum. It's just that there's a way it has been organized. I'll go into it shortly, but it's very popular in the world today. A lot of people are looking for, Scaled Agile framework, people who understand it, and then there are certain names that they give to it. So I don't want to really go into the Scaled Agile framework today because it's really a lot, but I will just touch the surface. But if I was to explain it in a very basic way, it's just basically Scrum in a scaled way. Like I said last week, Agile frameworks, you can craft something that works with your unique environment and name it your own framework. So if you work with any team and you feel like you're mature enough to create a good process that can help them deliver value and continuously improve, you can name it your own. And that's what Spotify did as well. Many teams have done that in the past. So yeah, that's what Scrum is. It's just one of the frameworks, but specifically modified to help scale Scrum. So moving on to the next slide. Yeah, this is the definition from their website, directly from the website, right? So the Scaled Agile framework is a set of organizational and workflow patterns for implementing agile practices at an enterprise scale. So the keyword here is that scale, because when you have an enterprise will have multiple teams, like I said, multiple teams. And so the framework has a structured guideline in terms of the kind of roles that you have, the responsibility, how to manage and plan work, and the values to uphold. So let's just go into the values, right? Safe or Scaled Agile framework promotes alignment, collaboration, and delivery across large numbers of agile teams. So it was formed around 3 primary bodies of knowledge, which is agile software development, lean product development, which I mentioned last week, and systems thinking. So I didn't talk about systems thinking, but if you look at it, it's basically literally what it means, right? System thinking, being able to create a very interesting system that works, something that is able to help break down something that is very complex. And the best way you can do that is to have certain defined rules, and maybe even have a diagram that shows the process of how things work. So yeah, that's systems thinking, right? So moving on to the next slide, Safe versus Scrum, what's the difference, right? I think I said some things about that earlier. Safe and Scrum are considered to be the most popular agile project management methods. However, Safe was actually conceived to overcome the limitations with Scrum. And like I said, Scrum is mainly limited to just one team, right? But then here, Scaled Agile Framework is addressing cross-functional project management teams. As a matter of fact, Scrum is suitable for small, manageable agile teams, but Scaled Agile is suitable for multiple and large agile teams. So they also went on to say that when the number of those small agile teams expands, the need for a larger framework is undeniable, and that's where Scaled Agile comes in. So let me play a video. Let me play a video. So this basically explains it in 5 minutes. I think we still have some time here. I think we have like 10 minutes left. So let's use 5 minutes to watch this. All right, please let me know if you cannot hear the chat.
SAFe provides the operating system for organizations to achieve business agility through the 7 core competencies of the Lean Enterprise: team and technical agility, agile product delivery, enterprise solution delivery, lean portfolio management, organizational agility, continuous learning culture, and lean agile leadership. It all starts with team and technical agility, and specifically with the Agile team. An Agile team is a group of 5 to 11 members which can define, build, test, and wear in short time boxes called iterations. The team uses Agile methods like Scrum or Kanban, or a combination thereof. The team starts each iteration by planning what they can deliver in an iteration planning event.
Yes, so for more context, an iteration in the context of Safe or Scaled Agile framework is a sprint, basically. So anywhere you hear iterations in the Scaled Agile framework is called sprint, right? So yeah, let's go again.
Team. An Agile team is a group of 5 to 11 members which can define, build, test, and where applicable, deploy value in short time boxes called iterations. The team uses Agile methods like Scrum or Kanban, or a combination thereof. The team starts each iteration by planning what they can deliver in an iteration planning event. The product owner provides guidance on what needs to be built by representing the customer on the team. Every day, the team meets to discuss how they're progressing toward their iteration goals in a daily stand-up. At the end of each iteration, the team demonstrates the work they've completed in an iteration review. Before the next iteration, the team reflects on what to improve for the next iteration in an iteration retrospective. The Scrum Master is the coach of the team, helping it improve and facilitating the various events. In an enterprise, multiple teams need to work together as a team of Agile teams to deliver value. In SAFe, these teams of Agile teams are called an Agile Release Train, or ART, and include 50 to 125 people. ARTs are cross-functional, including all the people needed to explore customer needs and then build and deliver solutions to customers. The ART uses Agile product delivery practices to deliver the right value at the right time. The ART works within a time box called a program increment, or PI, which is typically 5 iterations long. The ART follows similar events to teams. At the beginning of the PI, all teams come together to plan their work for the PI in a PI planning event. PI planning is facilitated by the release train engineer, who serves as the coach for the ART. Product management provides the vision and backlog. The system architect provides architectural guidance. The teams then plan the work for the PI, identifying what can be delivered. A program board is used to visualize the dependencies between the teams. Every iteration, the ART demos the integrated solution across all teams in a system demo. And at the end of the PI, all teams meet to retrospect on how to improve in an inspect and adapt event. Product managers use customer centricity and design thinking to understand customer problems and discover solutions that are desirable, viable, feasible, and sustainable. The ART builds a continuous delivery pipeline and uses DevOps practices to release on demand, delivering value when it is needed. Sometimes a single Agile release train is not enough to deliver a solution, and the enterprise solution delivery competency is needed. A solution train is used to coordinate multiple ARTs and suppliers to deliver large, complex solutions. Solution management has content authority on what gets built. The solution architect oversees the architecture across ARTs, and a solution train engineer coaches and facilitates solution train events. In order to align strategy and execution, Lean Portfolio Management provides a way to create strategic themes and a portfolio vision to align solution development with enterprise strategy. Lean Portfolio Management helps enterprises organize around the delivery of value in value streams, as well as fund these value streams to avoid the problems that are typically associated with project cost accounting. Having strategy, however, is not enough. Organizational agility provides the tools that help portfolios achieve strategy agility and change direction quickly when needed, organizing and reorganizing around value. It builds the environment for flow of value across the entire enterprise and beyond solution development and helps grow lean thinking people and agile teams. Continuous learning culture drives a culture of innovation and relentless improvement to help enterprises become learning organizations. Finally, a lean enterprise is built on lean agile leadership. To achieve and sustain business agility, leaders must embody, teach, and exhibit the mindsets, values, and principles that are the basis of lean and agile. Lead by example and guide everyone toward this new way of working using the implementation roadmap as a guide. Together, these 7 competencies build the lean enterprise and make true business agility possible.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching that. Okay, you know what? I think we should give feedback on what we have just watched. Can anybody just unmute their mic and just sort of tell me what they think about what we just watched now? Anybody? What you feel about it, what it means, or what you're able to get from the video, literally. Who is speaking now?
Hi, my name is Tosin.
Okay, please go.
And so far from what I've seen, with Scrum, you can manage smaller teams, and with the SAFe or SAFE, you can actually manage like larger teams.
Okay, nice. Thanks. Who else wants to go? So was that Labi?
Good afternoon. Yes, it is.
Okay. Oh, good afternoon.
Okay. Good afternoon. So from what I saw, I feel that the SAFe actually allows you to actually manage larger organizations. So like you explained with the Scrum, there are smaller objectives that different teams have to achieve. But then with SAFe, you can actually kind of coordinate everything and bring it together and achieve organizational goals easier. And you can actually track the process and do the whole refinements and everything like that.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Labi. Who else would like to say something before we continue? Okay, that's fine. Let's move on. So the thing with Scrum is, okay, let me share. Let me slide. Oh, mistake. 1 second, sorry. All right, can we see my screen? Can we still see my screen? Okay, great. So the thing with Scaled Agile, and the reason why I did not want us to really go too deep into it, because it's very, very, very complex, right? In the sense that there are so many moving parts, and there's this whole systems thinking to it, right? But like I said, when it comes to explaining stuff, I like us to get like the bottom line of everything. Okay, so after all this on and off and everything you have just said, what is the point of this? And I'm glad that everybody truly gets it. So on your own later, you can check and read it up and probably even get the certification, because this is the framework that most of these Fortune 500 companies in the world are using now. And lots of people are hiring people who have the knowledge of this framework, because it helps with enterprise agility, because there are so many teams. And so how do they organize around getting value from those teams? So yeah, that really summarizes that. Just like I said, the mindset for the Scaled Agile framework is basically the lean agile mindset, which I spoke about last week. Systems thinking, which we also added today, and then there's DevOps as well. So it was from this kind of thinking that we're able to enhance the value that DevOps bring. And what's DevOps? You can also read on that. There are lots of things to read on, to be honest, and there are lots of things that 2 hours cannot contain. But please, like I said, open your mind to new concepts. For example, now I can say, okay, for an assignment, you can go home and look at what DevOps is all about, right? And understand it for yourself. So it's also a great mindset that helps to improve value delivery by cutting on wait times, the time it will take for you to deliver value. Cutting that time down will help you to improve and be very efficient, really. And that's what DevOps, tries to help us to do. Yeah, moving on. Let's move on to the next slide. So there are 5 core values in the Scaled Agile framework. Like I said, I'll just be talking about the basic thing. We have alignment. Sorry, that's not well spelled. SAFe is based on business goals. Like I said, enterprise performance, enterprise agility. It's basically delivering value on that enterprise level. So the goal is to enable all the agile team to deliver value in a fast-paced environment, in a fast-moving place, and a fast-moving environment where things are, decisions are made at the speed of thoughts and all of that. So Scaled Agile helps us to have that alignment across all the bodies at the same time. Imagine having an alignment across like 20 Scrum teams. That's where you have Scaled Agile. Then the value of quality is also cannot be underlooked. Quality is at the core of Scaled Agile framework. Built-in quality, being able to deliver quality. Not say because you want to deliver fast, you now say, let's just do it like that. No. Quality is also very, very key. Transparency, like I said in Scrum. Program execution. The goal is to deliver value ultimately. So whatever program you're working on, there must be a great outcome, there must be an outcome, you must deliver value. Then there should be direction, leadership, vision, like I said in Scrum also earlier. So yeah, that's it basically. Moving on, there are 10 principles. In the video, they focused on 7. And so the thing is that with time, this framework also improves, and that really shows that it's agile. Before it used to be 9 principles, but now they've added one more because they've realized there are certain aspects of this that can also improve. Agile is all about continuous improvement, basically. So the latest framework for scaled agile, they've been improving it. There was version 4, there was 4.5, and now there's version 5. I'm sure before the end of this year, they'll probably release another version again. And then yeah, it's all about continuous improvements, right? So let's look at the 10 principles. The first one is to take an economic view. Basically, they look at the economic situation and ask that what's the value we are adding? Does it have economic impact? I think that's a very important place to start with when you're trying to deliver value as an enterprise. So this is talking on that enterprise scale. Next thing is applying systems thinking. Plenty moving parts, but being able to organize it in such a way that it will help the other parts to move. How a steering is important in driving the wheels, and how the wheels is important in moving you and taking you to where you desire to go. That's systems thinking, having to align all the moving parts. So the next one is talking about assuming variability, preserving option, understanding that things can change at any point in time, right? Then the next one is building incrementally. Basically, using iterations, or you can say sprints, making sure that at every single point in time that you have marked, you are able to improve on what you have done before, building incrementally. And then that iteration is also a learning cycle for you, because after that sprint, you can be able to say, okay, we didn't do well in this, we can do more. The next one is basing milestones on objective evaluation of working systems. So if you have certain systems in that framework that applies to you, making sure that you are using the ones that are working currently, systems that are working, you're using it to make that, you're using it to create a milestone on that. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. Like, for example, now, if you build something that is working already, right? Creating your milestone in such a way that it helps for you to evaluate what you have done. So the main goal here is to be able to evaluate, which is more like inspect, or inspection in the whole transparency, inspection, and adaptation thing. So your goal must be to make sure that you're consistently improving, basically. So the 6th one here is visualizing and limiting work in progress. I spoke about that in the Kanban presentation last week. Basically, being able to see all work in progress, and not just to see it, being able to limit it in such a way that whatever is in one column is not big. You're not overloading a particular column. So each of the columns that we have, they have separate tasks. For example, from to do, in progress, in development, in testing, to done. Making sure you're not overloading any of this column. Then the 7th one speaks to applying cadence, being able to create a predictable way of moving, predictable way of improvements with your team. Then the next one speaks to unlocking intrinsic motivation, or knowledge workers. Basically, the people that are working with you how can you determine the things that motivate them? How can you use the motivation to help your work to improve it, or to help them to do your work in the right way? Then the next one speaks to decentralizing decision making, not allowing decision making to only be from one single point, just like the way you have in Nigeria today, where you have a leader and that leader is like number one decision maker. I mean, I don't personally see other parts having a voice of their own or whatnot. But I mean subject to your own opinion. But I just wanted to use that to explain it. It's like when people speak about devolution of power in Nigeria, I think that basically speaks to it. Being able to have decision making, not from one central point, but from different points. So yeah, the last one speaks to organizing around value. Whatever it is you're doing in the Scaled Agile framework must be geared towards delivering value. Everything you want to put in place must be put in place because you want to deliver value. If your team is going to meet, the reason why it's meeting is because there's a value that they're there to provide. So that really speaks to it, right? Yeah, so moving on, last stage. I don't know if we have more time again, but I'll try to run this in 5 minutes. Project management tools. We talked about Trello last week, Asana, Zoho, Jira, which I said we're going to touch today. So we're going to have a Jira walkthrough right now. In 5 minutes, let me try and see how I can do. So Jira is basically a tool that helps product management or project management to be efficient. It helps improve transparency or visibility, like we call it. Then let me see one of these tabs here. Okay, yeah, I'm trying to open it. So yeah, the value that one gets from this is to be able to show what is in progress at every single point in time, be able to manage it, be able to do it in such a way that everyone is able to move single items from one point to another, being able to check your backlog, all these things we mentioned about Scrum and Sprint. Jira is very good because it supports all of that. It makes it very easy for you to do your work. It simplifies it, helps you to categorize user stories and whatnot. So let's just start from the basics, right? The basic thing, the first thing is to create a project, right? You have to create a project if you want to work on something. So you can name it anything, create a project. You can choose what kind of framework, whether it's Kanban or whether it's Scrum, or whether it's just for bug tracking. This is a free version. There's still service delivery and all of that, but these are the two that we've spoken about. So you can say create a Scrum board. There's this template there already, right? You can use that templates, and then go on to start. Name your project. Let me name this. What name should I give? Someone should give me a name in the chat. Suggest a name for me. The whole point of Jira is to be able to manage your project, really, but mostly around software development projects. So please, someone drop something in the chat for me. Wally, okay, nice one. Wally, WALLY, name of the project. It automatically gives you a key. So anything you are creating on that project, you have this wow sign. Yeah, and then we go on to create the projects. project created. So let's start from roadmap. So these are the 4 key things you need to know about Jira. Let me just make it very simple. Roadmap, product backlog, active sprints, aka sprint backlog, and then reports. The product backlog is different from the sprint backlog. Like I've said before, product backlog is where all the items that you've created is, all the user stories rather. And then the sprint backlog, aka active sprints, is where the items that the team has picked to work on within a sprint. And then reports. There are different reports in Scrum. I've not mentioned them today, but I'm just trying to save time. You can always go and read them on your own. So let me go to a board that I've already worked on before. Let's not waste too much time. So this is one I've worked on before. So let's go to the roadmap. As a product manager, I'm sure you're probably aware of creating product roadmap, right? And in this case, all I did was to create epics. So all these things you see in purple here are epics. So if you want to build something, there'll be a part of it, that you have to build, that's like in a category. For example, onboarding. You want to be able to log in, sign in, sign up. You can create user stories under that. All these user stories, if I create another one, let's say report fraud. This is a very short user story that is not really well defined, if I'm being honest, but I'm just showing you how you can create user stories in Jira. You can create it from this point. There are other places you can create it, but from the roadmap is easier for you to do that. So yeah, these are the stories under this epic, which is onboarding. You can go to profile management. So you must know how to break things down. So let me create another story, profile management. Let's say delete profile. Normally, if you're supposed to write a user story, this is not how you write it. So you don't just write delete profile. You start with something like, as a user, I want to be able to delete profile. Delete my profile. That's what you want to achieve. So that you mention why you want to be able to do that, so that I can leave the system, so that or anything that suits you, so that I can leave the app permanently. Yeah, I think that basically describes it. Thank you. So you've created a proper user story now. So yeah, let's go back. Let's go to the backlog. Now we have all the stories in the backlog. You can see there are 2 backlogs here. One is the sprint backlog, the other is the product backlog, right? For the backlog, these are stories that we've created, right? And then the sprint backlog are stories that we've put into the next sprint. However, we've not started the sprint. So if we want to start the sprint, I just need to press start sprint here and it starts counting for 2 weeks, because that's my own, what do you call it, time. You can increase it up to 4 weeks. It's up to you. So yeah, but before you take sprint items into the sprint backlog, you have to organize and prioritize your user stories. Maybe forgot password is more important than report fraud, or maybe delete profile is more important than everything, because if you are releasing mobile apps now, they want you to be able to put the option for a user to delete their data permanently from you. So also they will not let your app go live without that. Do you understand? So I think this is very much important, right? So you can put that, you can maybe prioritize report fraud next. Anyway, anything you have prioritized, you can now pick it, select it, press it, and maybe say, okay, you only have 2 people that can work on sprints work on items in your sprints. You drag it and put it in your sprints, right? So this is the sprint backlog. We have finished sprint planning now. We can go on to estimate each ticket and say, okay, this is the amount of effort it takes. You can give a number. Some people say 2, it might take 1. So it's like staying on the scale of 1 to 5. This is just basic estimation. No? There are other estimation methods. You can say on a scale of 1 to 5, you know, some teams don't even estimate. They just carry the items and then they start the sprint. But like I said, it has to be based on your team and what works for you. So you go ahead, click start sprints, right? And then duration. Do you get? You can say 1 week, you can say 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It's up to you. Or you can custom put the field yourself. And then you make a sprint goal, right? Let's say to deliver something, as your sprint goal. You can now say, okay, let's start the sprint, right? You start the sprint. Automatically, you can now see everything has started. We know what is in to do, visibility, like I said. We know what is in progress, right? And we know what is done. So during these 10 days, aka 2-week sprint, because we only have 10 working days in 2 weeks, we are able to visually see where everyone is at. And then one thing I didn't add is assigning a ticket to somebody. Yes. So when you create a story, you are supposed to be able to assign it to someone. Unfortunately, I don't have anybody on my board for now, so I could have just put someone's name, someone in my team. There's nobody in my team. I'm the only one in my team. Okay, let me see. All right, so let's say this person. So I've assigned it to this person. You can see that the person's name is showing. Do you get? I can assign it to somebody else, like that. So yeah, so I've assigned it. So we know who is working on what progress, what particular stage in the project that they are in, and whether you know where it is. Basically, it's just a way for you to visually see things, like I said. So yeah, we've talked about roadmap, we've talked about the backlog. Then we've talked about active sprint, which is the product backlog. Sorry, the sprint backlog. Now going to reports. Reports helps you to tell how much progress you're making. You can check it out yourself. Like I said, it's just basic stuff. I think I need to stop talking now because I've passed the time. But yeah, that basically sums Jira up. There are other things that you need to know, but you can check reports. But I can't use this one because we just started the sprint, right? So we don't have any data yet. But that's basically Jira for you. It helps you to be able to create and manage the states of any single work item at a time. That's it. So thanks, guys. Okay, Olayinka.
Good afternoon, Awale. Thank you for the wonderful section. It has been an interesting session. Well done. So my question is, for example, that user story that you wrote, as a user, I want to delete something so that, okay, that user story. So if developer wants to work on this story now, backend will have his own tasks to do, and front end also will have his own tasks to work on. So at what points will they now break this thing down? Maybe for when they are doing their daily stand-up, each of them can actually say, this is what I've done and this is what I've done. Do you understand my question?
Yes. So your question is, can you come again? Your voice was sounding a bit low.
Oh, sorry. So my question is, this is the story.
Yes.
And for developers to do this thing now, we'll have front-end tax is here,
Okay,
and
okay.
also back-end tax is there. At
Yeah.
what point are they going to break it down? So front-end tax, back-end tax.
Nice. Thank you very much. So that's the thing. So for certain things, right? Let's use this story, for example. You see them put something like this, front end hyphen, right? That will be a front end story, right?
Okay.
I don't know why this didn't update. Then you can go ahead to clone the tickets. Where is it here? Clone. You make a copy of it and then change it to backend, right? You clone that and it exists in your backlog. It's already cloned. You refresh your page, you see it. Your question is, at what point do they see? I've moved it into the sprint backlog. At what point do they do what now? At what point are they able to?
At what point will I say, okay, as a front end, I created an interface. As a back end, I wrote an API and all that.
Okay, so that speaks to documentation, right? Anything you are doing, you have to document it. You create. So that's why we have this tool we call Confluence, right? So any work item, it's always important for team members to document it. So when you pick a story up as a front-end engineer, you document what you did in Confluence. Confluence is like where you write all your documentation. So anybody can pick it up at any point in time. I just opened Confluence now, by the way.
Is it
So
developer that will write it?
Yes, the developer writes their documentation. Hold on. Don't
They
get
are
me
so
wrong.
lazy in writing documentation.
So that's best practices, right? However, before a person picks up a story to work on, is defined by the product manager in the user story, explaining what the user story is and adding an acceptance criteria, saying, okay, in detail, this is what I expect, this is what I expect, right? And saving it. So in that refinement session, we'll be going through the story one after the other, making sure everybody
And put the
understands.
acceptance letter.
Making sure that everybody understands it. So if they don't understand it, then they will deprioritize the story or they will further explain the story. Do you understand? That's how simple it is. So there's a meeting to work on those things, and then there's a meeting where we also pick those items up, which is the planning meeting. So by the time it's planning time, everybody already understands what we're working on. Do you get? So that's it. If any story is not clear, somebody will explain it. So Gabriel said, can we also have the backend and front-end tasks as subtasks under the user story? You can have subtasks, but that really speaks to the story you're working on. For example, for front-end, if you have more than one task that you need to complete before that story is completed, you create a subtask. Maybe the subtask could be, okay, what's the story? I want to be able to delete my profile. Maybe it could be, connect to a certain endpoint in the backend. Do you get? You create that. The next one, like it could be anything, it could even be documentation, because anything you're working on, you must document it. That's just how it is, so that you don't make mistakes and so that somebody else who is joining your team can continue. It's that simple. For documentation tickets, you write your stories, you write your documentation on Confluence, and then you copy the link to it and add it and attach it. Do you get? It's that simple. So yes, a task can have subtasks. Any other questions? Sorry, our time has gone by far. Does anybody else want to say anything?
I have a question, please. I'm so sorry. Sorry.
Please go ahead.
Just quick one.
Yeah.
So I've been attending Scrum Master interview, and there's this question that normally comes up: difference between spikes and technical depth. Please, can you just explain those two terms, spikes and technical depth?
Okay, so I'll explain that. However, I just want to apologize to anybody who probably doesn't or know or who hasn't heard of that, because I'm sure not everybody has really gone deep into this. So what is
Yes,
spike?
yes, that was why I said I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So a spike is an investigation or an investigative story. It's just something that you don't yet understand everything about it, whether in terms of what the work is about or the amount of effort that it takes. So you can just create it. Let me try and create a story here. Create an issue. So in the paid version, you have spike, right? And some other tasks that I can call it. This is a bug, for example. I can say fix bug, and then a spike is just an investigative story, just like that. But what makes it different is that you do not know what it takes to finish that story. So you want to investigate and find out, okay, this is what it's about, that is what it's about, and all of that. Then for technical depth is as a result of improper planning. Basically, you have a product you are working on. Then just because you want to deliver value fast, you now went and just had coded it. And this speaks to people who are developers, by the way, without having a proper architectural diagram of how the whole system should be. You just went ahead and had coded it. Unfortunately, you now want to improve and expand what you have, but you realize that it's already running on a wrong rail, or the foundation is not good. So you now have to go back and correct it and do it the way it should be to accommodate the new things you want to push. So that time that it takes you to go back and do all of that, that's what you call technical depth. And the more you abandon it, the more expensive it will be for you in terms of time and probably resources. So yeah. Spike
All right,
is to
thank you. I'm
investigate
grateful.
a story. Yeah, you're welcome.
Investigate.
Yeah.
All right.
Investigate.
Spike is to investigate a story. Okay.
Yeah, a story
Okay.
you
Thank
don't
you.
understand. Yeah, you're welcome. So
Okay. All right. Thanks.
yeah, any other person wants to speak before we go or before we ask for that question?
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hi. Good afternoon.
I'm Oluwapelumi. It's been a productive session so far. But my question is regards stand up, the daily scrum. You mentioned that it's a 15-minute max session. But
Yep.
in a situation where you have like a very large team, like in a team of let's say 10 to 15 people, how do you fit in the number of people in that team to a 15-minute daily stand-up session?
Nice one. So I encounter this every day, literally, because in my team we're more than 15, right? Basically, the people you cut them off, right? Not cut them off in terms of shout at them and ask them to keep quiet. No. There are certain people that have no business talking in your meeting, right? Also, you're not supposed to have more than a certain amount of people. Keep it very simple and short. What you did yesterday, what you do today, and if you have any issues. Your job is just listening and writing as they're talking. And on the average, you shouldn't have more than 9 people, 9 thereabouts, 9 to 11, I guess. Yeah, as team members. So you do not allow anybody else to break that 15 minutes mark. Anybody you see who is already trying to shalaye or explain further than what they are supposed to say, you cut them off and tell them, oh, okay, please, can we take this out of stand up, just to make sure that we keep it in that time box.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. From my experience, like 9 to 10 people can give their feedback in less than 10 minutes. I'm not even kidding. In less than a minute, each person should talk. What I did yesterday, you can put a timer from your watch. Once you see someone has exceeded the time, you tell them, okay, let's take this out of stand-up. Yeah.
So thank you, Mr. Wale. Please, how can we connect with you because I have a lot of questions, but I don't want to delay this class because of my question.
Okay. You can find me on Twitter.
Twitter as.
Let me drop my Twitter handle here.
All right, thank you.
So just check the chat. You see there. I've dropped it now.
Hi, Mr. Wale. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, Phil from Lagos. Thanks for your time and the productive time that you've given us. So please, I just want to confirm, how can someone obtain Scrum Master certification that is internationally recognized?
Yeah, so there are two ways. Either you go on the internet and find, the guys that provide these services, right, internationally. The only issue is that you would pay a higher cost. So most of these people who are like certification bodies, they look at the country where you're coming from, and then they train people within that country. So you can also meet people who are in Nigeria who are certified trainers, so that you can deal with the cost. So for example, this skilled agile certification, it costs around $1,500 outside Nigeria. But in Nigeria, you can get it under $500. So, you have to know, but everything is on the internet, to be honest. Just search for it. And yeah, you can reach out to me and ask me. So we don't take too much time, but like, it's either you go on the internet and take it internationally, where it will be virtual and, you'll be with other people from other countries, or you can take it in-house to Nigeria here. The advantage is just cost, like I said, but still the same content. Yeah.
All right. I'll reach out to you. Thanks.
Absolutely. I think someone dropped a message in the chat about that. So yeah.
All right. I think we have one more person's hand that is up. That's
okay. Pelumi.
Oh, Pelumi.
Sorry, I forgot to put my hand down. I'll do that just now.
Oh, okay.
I think with that, is it okay to network with everyone here? Sure, there's going to be a time for that, but let's quickly round off the call, David, and we'll have time to network. All right. I want to say a big thank you to Wale for the session thus far. It's been a very, very good time learning from Wale. Thank you so much, Wale. We truly appreciate
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. So guys, let's say a big thank you to Wale, and also use this moment to share some feedback with Wale about the session. I'll call up my friend Esther to moderate the feedback session with Wale. At Trevor, one of the things we try to do is we try to always give our facilitators feedback. Wale has taken time to speak to us about what Agile is all about. The product management methodologies, Scrum, Safe, and the whole length and breadth of it. So now we want to give Wale some feedback on Slido. Apologies, I know we couldn't run the Slido poll earlier. I was not available. But right now we're going to try and give Wale some feedback on Slido. So if you will indulge me, I'll encourage everyone to just go to the Slido poll right now. Click on the link, and I'm going to be sharing my screen so we can just give him some well-curated feedback about how this session went. What do you think about how the session went? Let's give him some feedback on Slido. Yeah. So this is the first question. How did you enjoy learning with Wale on project management concepts adopted to product development? Yes, the training material will be shared. And Wale, join Scrum,
Yes.
Scrum as your community. Yeah, correct.
Yes, so the community is called Scrum Master Africa. It's on Twitter for now. We're about 330 people thereabouts right now. So if you follow me on Twitter or if you view my profile on Twitter, that's the pinned tweets there. So you just be able to join the community. There are people who are talking there as well. You know, everybody's there. Thanks for the feedback.
Yes, let's keep it coming. Let's keep it coming. We have more people on the call. So I've shared the link once again in the chat. You can scan it. Let's give him some feedback. There are 3 questions. What were the key highlights or learnings from the session for you? Oh, okay. Somebody said Jira, safe, good. What else? Is there anything we can improve on towards the next session, or probably another time you're going to be hearing from Wale? So let's get this feedback. I believe we can get a whole lot more. There are a lot more people in the house. So once again, you can just scan the barcode if you're on your laptop, you know, scan the barcode with your phone, or follow the link in the chat box. Follow the link in the chat box. Let's give Wale some feedback about this session. Okay. Also, I'm gonna mention this. This is something we recently introduced, and let's just see how it goes. So if you enjoyed the session and you really enjoyed it and you feel like, oh man, I really enjoyed this session and I want to buy a copy, or I want to tip the facilitator because I just really enjoyed the session. Yeah. So we have a link for that as well. You can just buy a coffee for the facilitator. And I don't know, Wale, do you prefer coffee or you prefer beer? What do you prefer? Hi, Wale. Okay, I think Wale is there again. Is he there? So Wale, yeah, but yeah, that's it. If you enjoyed the session and you would like to pass it on, please you can feel free to share it. Yeah. Oh.
Sorry, my network tripped off. Apologies, Phil.
Yeah, same here. My network also tripped off. Okay.
Okay.
I hope the class I didn't lose the class for too long. But yes. So let's go through the feedback. We have a good in here. Okay, these are some key highlights. Key highlights for the session: Scrum ceremonies, principles of SAFe. Okay, SAFe, breakdown of the Scrum framework, Jira, Scrum basics. Oh, that's beautiful. Creating reports, sprint backlog. Okay, product backlog and prioritization. What can we improve on? More experienced expert like Wale. We want more of Wale. Wale, we want more of you. Someone is even saying more time. So you guys want more time. This is a 2 hours masterclass. All right. So don't worry. I think in the nearest future, we'll have something much more in-depth with Wale where we can, spend the whole day if you want to. Yeah, we look forward to doing that one of these days. It would be nice to get the slides. Okay. Oh, there's a quiz. Okay. The slides. Yes, the slides will be shared. The slides will be shared alongside the video recording. So let me just drop something here now quickly. Like I was saying earlier, if you want to, you can let the feedback continue coming in and let more feedback coming in. So the recording for the slides, recording for these sessions, the very first session, you can catch it on YouTube. the link, I just dropped it in the chat box. The second session, which is today's session, you can catch it on YouTube. I dropped the link in the chat box already as well. And like I said, if you really enjoyed the session with Wale and you feel like you want to buy Wale a coffee or a mug of beer, anything, you can, yes. So you can buy Wale a coffee or anything. Yeah, just.
Sorry, I wanted to say something. So, like, please feel free to ask me any questions on Twitter. Like, DM me, send me a message. I always reply my Twitter DMs because I get some people who are like some of my friends who probably, have something to share. Some people want to join. Some people just got roles and they're looking for like guidance, like what to do next, those kind of things. Please feel free to reach out. Everybody goes through that phase. Sometimes, you just get into a job and then you're like asked to perform magic and all of that. I don't know what to do or how to go about it. It's good to reach out to people and just ask. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, Wale, once again.
All right. No
Truly appreciate this session. And I think with this, we will close the curtains and we will open what I call, I call this part open house,